Fantastic. And I am going to fade us to black. Well, let me turn up the music. Goodbye Gamera 2000 for PlayStation 1. Fade to black. All right, we are starting in 5, 4, 3.
Gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for January 13th, 2025. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, is this the week? Is Switch 2 finally real? But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host, the Game Mess Mornings. It's Emma Fyffe, everybody. Emma, how are you doing?
Well, as you can see, I'm not in my usual setup here. That is because I am currently in Arizona at my parents' house.
Vacationing? Just taking it easy?
Yeah, vacation. Just having a nice, just taking it easy. Yes, I know that you all know, Chad. I've seen you talking in Discord about the fires that are happening in Los Angeles right now. Where we are is safe.
Good.
But the way the Palisades fire was blowing this weekend was definitely edging towards us. I thought Eaton Canyon, which I think is technically closer mileage-wise, was going to be the issue. But yeah, anyway, there's fires on both sides of me. And we basically just decided on Wednesday. So the series of events was Tuesday. We had power the whole time, but our internet kept going in and out. Wednesday, the fires were picking up. Tuesday night, my in-laws got a notice to evacuate. So on Wednesday, we just decided that we were like, you know what? On the off chance that we do end up in mandatory evacuation, it's going to be tough trying to get out.
It'll be
so
much
let's
harder
just
at
go
that
now.
point. Yes.
Yep. So we're like, let's just go now. So we packed up our cars and our animals, and we just left. Yeah, as I say, my place is okay right now, and for those of you who are interested, Bailey only lives a block from me, so she's also fine. Though there was a time where like she was in red flag and we were in fire weather watch. I think red flag is worse, but now everybody's back in red flag because the winds are picking up again. So basically, we're expected to have very high winds tonight through Wednesday, I believe. So this is going to be, we're not out of the woods yet, is really what I'm saying. But yeah, I do, I know people whose homes burned to the ground, like just literally lost everything.
Yep.
So it's been, it's been very scary. My parents are very happy that we left.
I bet.
So we're just going to kind of wait it out at this point. I think the soonest we'll be able to go back to LA is probably this coming weekend. So in the meantime, but again, we took all the pets with us. Cats hate riding in the car, it turns out, which I knew, but
oh yeah.
Light, my cat, who you all know very well, he's the one who makes numerous appearances on this show. Turns out he's quite the escape artist.
Oh, no.
So when I was driving to Arizona with him in the car, he broke out of his carrier and decided he mostly sat underneath my seat, but he definitely sat on my lap for a little while. And I was just like, and I stopped and I put him back in the carrier. He broke out again. So I've ordered a new one for when we do ultimately drive home. But yeah, it's been an adventure.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm glad you're safe. Glad you're all right. Boy, this has been just devastating news, just nonstop. Is there like a light at the end of the tunnel? Is there any indication that things could get under control?
I mean, basically, I think that the biggest thing that I've really taken away from this is how much people actually are good and want to help each other. So, people who are still in Los Angeles are having trouble finding places to volunteer because all the volunteer places are so well staffed. I have neighbors who have been doing supply runs, so I've been sending them some money so that they can bring stuff to fire stations, to homeless shelters, to animal shelters, all the places in LA that need it. So I would say that that is the most hopeful thing that I have seen, is that people are good and they want to help each other. The average person really like wants to help their neighbor. And so, I mean, again, it's like we are still unfortunately in a situation that we're going to have dangerous winds again. So that could potentially really wreak some havoc. I will say that over the weekend, when the winds had died down, technically, or not even technically, they did a decent job containing parts of the Eaton fire. So hopefully that'll kind of hold. But I mean, you know, we'll see. We're just not out of the woods yet.
All right. Well, hope everyone does find a way to remain safe. Hope this comes to an end very soon. Hopefully you're able to get home and everything can just get back to normal. And I mean, God, long term, we got to figure something out, right? We just got to figure this stuff out. I say this, we could figure this out, and it just takes some leadership to get it done. So hopefully,
sure does.
hopefully we can get to that point. All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. And hello, Twitch or TikTok. TikTok, yeah, that's where we're at now as well. Hello. All right, TikTok. We have lots to get into.
Whoa.
Yeah, we're sending to TikTok. Who knows if anyone's watching there? The kids. Let's start the morning mess with another rumor about the Nintendo Switch 2. This time it is that the reveal is happening this week. This comes from Nintendo Everything, and I will say the reason I'm starting with this is I have heard this multiple times as well now, and not that like confirms it, not that this means for sure. We've been burned before, but from multiple directions and I'll say multiple continents. This sort of has been reverberating from multiple places, and it doesn't feel like one of those, oh, this is a rumor that is circulating around, like one rumor that's circulating back and forth between a bunch of people. It's coming from angles that it makes me feel pretty comfortable that this is probably happening this week. Now, the dates I've heard have been 16th, 17th. Over on his podcast, Nate the Hate says he's heard January 16th. So this Thursday, that 16th, 17th number probably covers, United States and Japanese time zones there. So it could happen maybe in the early evening here, which would be the 17th in Japan, something along those lines. I bet the 16th is the date most of us are probably going for. Oh yeah, and Jamie H in chat saying Andy from VGC is corroborating too regarding hardware this week, software in February. Yeah, it's all kind of lining up, and I think we're all feeling pretty good about this. I know that this rumor has been bouncing around the UK for a little bit, and then the US here, like the kind of the US sources in the last week or so is when I've been starting to hear this. So, God, it feels right about time, Emma. What do you think?
I totally agree. I mean, here's the thing is in classic Nintendo fashion, I feel like every single time we get a Nintendo Direct, we get maybe 24 hours notice if we're lucky. Usually it's like, oh, we're going to have a Nintendo Direct at 6 a.m. and right now it's 8 o'clock at night. So again, it would certainly not be out of the ordinary for Nintendo to suddenly, throw something at us that doesn't seem to be attached to an event that has been planned and on our radars for a really, really long time. Certainly the Switch 2 has been on our radars for a very, very, very long time. A very long time. And I think that there was a period of time where Nintendo was really riding on the success of the original Switch, particularly in 2020, as more and more people got into gaming, and that was your most accessible console. But, it's about damn time. So I'm going to believe this if simply because I'm so tired of speculating about it.
Yep. Yeah, one of the reasons it's, these rumors have been popping up these last couple of weeks, and I think maybe on Game Mess Decides, my other podcast I do with Mike on Thursdays, I might have hinted at it during that episode, but very lightly. When I get these rumors these days, I'm like, okay, it'll happen when it happens. It's going to happen when it happens.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to like jump on top of every single one of these again. Again, people have been burned over and over again. And yeah, Nintendo will just decide to do this when it's ready to do it. And yet now that we're here and Nate's out there saying it and Andy's corroborating, and again, my DMs are kind of popping off with some sources being like, yep, see, I told you. I'm finding myself getting excited. But this initial reveal sounds like it's going to be focused on the hardware, so it's still going to be kind of all the stuff we've already seen leaked. And the software coming later in February, it's not that far away, a couple of weeks, but still, like, it's, okay, let's show us the hardware. Nintendo, I don't know if you know this, but we've kind of seen it all. Or maybe we haven't. Maybe they have some surprises in there. But I got to say, the things I imagine myself caring about, we already know about that stuff. It's a Switch 2.
Yeah.
It's the same as the Switch 1. More powerful, bigger screen, maybe a few extra features here or there. But yeah, I think, when this comes out, do you think this will satiate people, or you think we're still going to kind of be in this weird, okay, now what do the games look like mode?
The latter, for sure.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like we know what the hardware is. It's Switch, but better.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think really it's like what we need to see is the games running and what games we're going to potentially have at launch to really get people excited about this. I do think that Nintendo is now in a scenario wherein there is a lot of competition in the handheld market in a way that there wasn't before, with the rise of things like, the Steam Deck and the Rogue Ally. So I feel like, again, Nintendo was always going to Nintendo and do whatever they want whenever they want, because that's just how Nintendo operates.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I just like, I feel like all Nintendo has going for it right now are their IPs. And because, things like the Steam Deck, it looks like a Switch, it runs like a Switch, you can dock it and run it on your TV. So I feel like they really gotta knock it out of the park with their IP and just sort of general quality of life upgrades that we're not going to see in just like, here's the hardware, it's a Switch, like, you know.
Yeah, we are, this week is 8 years since not the reveal of the original Switch, but the big Switch presentation they did after the initial reveal. So this is when we got like the trailer for Breath of the Wild, that amazing trailer for Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
8 years on from that, it does feel like they are following a very similar playbook here. It's one thing we do with Nintendo frequently, especially as people who pay attention to what they're going to do next. We always look at the pattern and be like, okay, well, they did this, so maybe we can rely on them to do that next. And in this case, that would be, so this reveal focusing mostly on hardware. Maybe a game pops up in a quick clip of a person playing something on the TV, and it's a new game, new Mario, maybe, just like, or, new Zelda was in that original Switch reveal. And then we get a deeper presentation a month later. That is how it happened with the Switch. And then a few months later, the thing is out. Now, the recent rumors have been, and I'm leaning this way now, that this system is out in April. That also feels right now. How about what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like we've seen this pattern with Nintendo that when they do, and I will say, with the clear exception being Tears of the Kingdom, that was, oh, it's coming out now. Oh, just kidding, it's coming out now, et cetera, et cetera. Nintendo is usually pretty on the money in terms of, okay, this is when this thing is launching, and they mean it, because by the time they reveal it, it's mostly done. So I definitely think that, again, it's like if we are getting a reveal of the Switch this week, then it coming out in April makes total sense.
Muted myself. Yeah, and God, that's like especially exciting because that's gonna be here in no time at all. Like we're gonna get through this month where we're like, have a little bit of time to maybe catch up on some games or escape hellfires, whatever you're doing, however you want to spend your time. And then next month we get Monster Hunter Wilds and a few other games that are massive, that are gonna like take up all the oxygen in the room. And then a few of those games have already slipped to March. And then on the other side of that, here we are. During that time, we're going to get nonstop information from Nintendo at that point about those games and the system. So Switch 2 is going to be kind of like, even though it feels like it has been for a while now because of all the leaks, it's going to be taking up also all the oxygen in the room. It's pretty exciting. I'm glad that I think we're here. I'm glad that we're finally here. I'm kind of excited to see how Nintendo presents this thing to the world. There's always a chance this comes out and is disappointing for whatever reason. Maybe Nintendo goes hard on a gimmick that no one cares about, and it forces difficult times for developers. Seems unlikely, but hey, I just want to see this thing at this point. Let's get it going. Now, there's other rumors sort of orbiting this, not even just rumors, little tidbits of news that might be more meaningful than they first appear. Amazon began canceling long-standing Metroid Prime 4 pre-orders this past week, sparking new speculation. This is from Marcus Persson at Game Reactor. Amazon has recently canceled several long-standing pre-orders for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, a game eagerly awaited by fans since its announcement in June 2017. Despite a re-reveal last summer and Nintendo's assurance of a 2025 release, customers have reported receiving cancellation notices for pre-orders placed years ago, some at discounted prices. This development has led to speculation about potential delays or issues with the game's production. However, it's more likely that these cancellations are due to an error on Amazon's part rather than an indication of problems with the game's development. Nintendo has not yet commented on the situation. Now, Emma, I could see why people speculate, and I think that's my tendency here as well, right? Where this is happening pretty close to now. What we're saying is they're going to be the reveal of the Switch 2. Maybe they have some reason they needed to cancel it so they could sort of reset some things. For example, maybe the games are going to be $70 now, and they were like, well, let's cancel that version of the game and make this primarily a Switch 2 game that we could sell for $70. I mean, what do you think?
Sure. Well, it's interesting because Amazon and Nintendo have had issues, or more what it is that Nintendo has had issues with Amazon in general. So, there was a period of time wherein basically like Nintendo really wants to control everything that's happening with its Amazon sales. So I wonder if it's that situation. I do think that again, it's like, it really could be either way of like, it's simply a, Nintendo doesn't want to list this thing on Amazon right now because they're pulling it from Amazon because they need to make sure that they verify all of the sellers and that they are actually selling the correct hardware, because there's been plenty of issues in the past with people ordering, Switch hardware off of Amazon and receiving the wrong thing. So that is certainly something to take into consideration in terms of them having these cancellations. However, there is, of course, the possibility that this is going to be a Switch 2 title, which once again would feed back into that thing of Nintendo being like, well, we just need to pull this hardware because, we need to make sure that we're guaranteeing people are getting what they actually ordered.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bunch of possibilities are here where it's like, I drew a little narrative, like you're sort of describing a situation that makes a lot of sense. It really could be as simple as just an error. Maybe Amazon's not thinking about this at all. Maybe Nintendo's not saying anything to Amazon, which is maybe the most likely scenario because, as you said, Nintendo and Amazon have had a rocky relationship for a very long time. Mm-hmm. It's been on again, off again in a lot of ways. There was a time where it's like just there were no Nintendo products from Nintendo available on Amazon. There were like years where that was the case. It's not necessarily the case these days. So it's thawed somewhat, but it does not seem like that has fully healed ever. And again, I think that's Nintendo feels like they should be able to control how their things are sold, and Amazon's like, who are you?
Yes.
Yeah. So it may be the most likely scenario is that Nintendo's not saying anything to Amazon, and Amazon's like, well, maybe we've heard something, and so we're just going to cancel these things just to protect ourselves, I guess, maybe, or maybe just some software thing in the background is doing this, and no one is even aware of it until people began reporting on it. Still, though, the timing is curious. I hope that as we get Switch 2, info maybe this week, and we get into and here's updates on the software, I hope that comes with all the information we need about the release date for Metroid Prime 4 and a lot of these other games that we've been sort of waiting on. Final thing about Nintendo here. Nintendo's lawyers reportedly approached Switch 2 replica leaker at CES. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. A lawyer representing Nintendo reportedly approached Genki, the group behind a series of high-profile Switch 2 leaks. Last week, a large number of images and claims emerged from CES, which took place in Las Vegas. At the center of this was accessory maker Genki. The company reportedly showed what it claimed to be an accurate replica of Nintendo's next system. Representatives from the company also claimed to have seen a final unit of the system and shared information about the as-yet unannounced system's release date. Now, in a video from Julian Teluk, the journalist claims that the Nintendo's lawyers approached the manufacturer at CES. I spoke with the guy from Genki just behind me, said Teluk. He told me that Nintendo had already sent lawyers their way, but Genki has nothing to worry about because they've never signed any papers with Nintendo, no confidentiality agreement, no NDA. So the Japanese brand is in the clear. Genki has yet to comment on this, and Nintendo has made no comment on the leaks beyond telling a Japanese newspaper that the mock-ups were not official. This is going to be an interesting one. I don't think any of those things about like, hey, Genki didn't sign a non-disclosure agreement would necessarily stop Nintendo from suing them, right? Nintendo might still find ways to do that, right?
Completely agree with you. Yeah, I mean, and again, this comes back to this is more complicated than Nintendo being extremely protective of everything that they own. Because again, it's like, okay, well, if they are creating models of the Switch 2, then that is potentially infringing on Nintendo's hardware. So yeah, this is a little more complex.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a patent violation is in there somewhere. Probably not. I'm no lawyer, but I don't think that really matters.
No.
I think we know Nintendo and we know their vibes, and you sort of cross them in this way, and you are a company. I think Nintendo might want to at least frighten you a little bit. And of course, send in the lawyers over there, the Nintendo ninjas, to give you a visit in person is the start of that process. But I don't know. I don't know if it's the end of the process. We'll see. I've never been like offended that Genki did this. I think most people are like, yeah, whatever. But you know, Nintendo probably does not appreciate it, and Nintendo can be very ornery about this sort of thing. So we'll see how it plays out.
Sure can.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about a new PS1, what's happening with Skate 4, and a lot more right after this. All right, let's get right back into it. And first up is another rumor. Microsoft event next week might be bigger than expected. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. As we reported last week, Microsoft will be running its own event on January 23rd, where we're promised to see Doom the Dark Ages, South of Midnight, and Clair Obscur Expedition 33, as well as a secret game from a secret studio. Well, that in itself seems like a nice prospect. There are signs that we should perhaps have higher expectations than that. Windows Central editor Jez Corden has reportedly shown himself to have a good grasp of what is up at Microsoft, and via Blue Sky, he cryptically writes that he thinks the Xbox Developer Direct is going to be a lot bigger than Microsoft is currently letting on. Unfortunately, we don't know anything more than that, but Corden is more often right than wrong, so hopefully we can get information about some other surprises too. I think that these Developer Directs have been sort of being amplified recently. They're on the rise in terms of their importance and how Microsoft is presenting them. I think at first they were just trying to understand what they should make these things for a while. Like the early Developer Directs, to my memory, were here is a game, a new game, either or a game we've announced before, and now here is 10 to 15 minutes of us talking to developers about that game, and the pace was all over the place. And I think there's places for that thing, and Xbox has found places for those things, either on its blogs, in a separate video, in a like Developer Direct extra version that they do like a week later or a few days later, where they do have some of those interviews. But for these Developer Directs recently, they have been making them feel a lot more like Nintendo Directs, where it's just one piece of information after another and it goes pretty quickly. And presenting it that way, you sort of want to have a certain amount of excitement built into there. It's like making a mix CD. You want to like start strong and get stronger and then cool off for a little bit. You want to do the high fidelity thing. And
Totally.
I think that like when you are someone who's putting together that show, you begin to like look around for how can we make people feel excited about this, and you want to build something that is big and important. And I think they just sort of naturally lean that way. Now, I think the secret game is probably that Oblivion. I don't know for sure, but the recent rumors lined up with that. That sounds right to me. But it could be a bunch of other things too. But I mean, that alone is pretty exciting. And then if there's other things to go along with that, like if we get a lot of dates about known games beyond the ones that they mentioned here, like if there is a date for a Perfect Dark, right? That's a pretty big show.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, again, it's like I feel like we're staring down the barrel this year of we know the release date for Monster Hunter and everything else feels like it's a big question mark. Including things like, a classic Ubisoft, delaying Assassin's Creed again.
Yep.
But no, I mean, I guess that it's like, yeah, even if we just get release dates for some titles that have been announced, then that's good. Colonel Sanders in chat, I would absolutely play a Tony Hawk RPG. I saw that you had that, I'm sure, as a joke answer, but legit would play. And I mean, this is just looking at this, it's a snapshot of where the industry has gone. Because as you mentioned, it's like all of these things are now these developer events. They've kind of replaced the E3 press conference. And everybody has kind of followed in the footsteps of, again, Nintendo controlling the narrative around their own IP, around their own hardware, while also, doing their indie showcases and things like that. But I feel like, again, as you say, this is the direction that these things are going. And so this is now where we expect to have those things like those big release dates or updates on things like, Pop Ultree in chat also mentioning things like Fable, that, again, these games that we know about that we just don't really have concrete information as far as when they're going to be available.
Yeah. And I think the reason like some games get called out here, like South of Midnight and Doom: The Dark Ages, is these will get big presentations and a lot of information, and those are probably earlier rather than later in the year, or at least have more firm release dates and things like that. I think some other ones could get like just like a certain like release window, like fall 2025 for Fable or something like that.
Yep.
And even still, if they can have a couple of those, that goes a long way towards making the show feel a lot bigger, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You think, so we get Developer Direct, we get the news from Nintendo here pretty soon. Sony's not going to sit out too much longer, right? Like, they're not going to be waiting
absolutely not.
They're not going to be waiting until late spring, early summer to give us all the information on a bunch of big games. We're probably due for a PlayStation State of Play, or at least a couple more big announcements here pretty soon from them, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, again, it's like, as we're saying, we're anticipating a Nintendo Switch 2 announcement, probably a Direct, and we know about the Microsoft event. So Sony I'm sure that they are, if they don't have something, they're finding little crumbs that they can make into something resembling a pie.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's keep going here. Taki Udon's groundbreaking FPGA PS1 gets detailed. Pricing starts at $150. This is from Damien McFerrin at Time Extension, and I will explain all of those things I just said. Taki Udon, who is a YouTube creator and more recently someone who's gotten into making retro gaming hardware, recently made the Mr. Pi, which is a Mr. like the Mr. console that is an FPGA that people can make emulate hardware on a chip for a bunch of classic consoles. The Mister's been around for a while, but it's very expensive. Taki made the Mr. Pi, which combines the Mister with the Raspberry Pi in some ways to make it a cheaper product. I don't fully understand it, but it was much more affordable is the point. And now he has taken that and applied it directly to a PS1, and he's gone so far as to even make the hardware itself look like the PS1, the ONE version, the slimmed down version. It is really cool looking, very nice looking. It is also only going to be $150 and has the possibility to install other Mr. cores on it, so it could support a bunch of other hardware. Frankly, this is like maybe the way to get into Mr. for a lot of people going forward. One, it's going to support a very popular console just right out of the box, PS1, and then it's going to have the possibility to extend to all these other consoles in the same way that a Mister does, but maybe in a slightly friendlier and a more affordable package. I am personally very excited about this thing. It looks very cool. And overall, I'm just excited about Taki Udon's work because he's kind of coming in here and disrupting a huge swath of the retro gaming space by making these things a lot more affordable. And he said he was going to do this, and I was like, well, we'll wait and see. And now we've waited, we're seeing, and I'm like starting to believe. So this is pretty exciting. Is this something that is of interest to you at all?
Of course. I mean, I quite frankly have an interest. And even if it's not me personally, something that I want to play, in this case it is because I was a PlayStation 1 kid. Sega Genesis was the first console that I feel like I played a lot. But then, once we got the PlayStation, like that's when I went full tilt as a gamer. But yeah, so the thing about any of these consoles and, their ability to run these games, again, it's putting them into these more accessible packages that normally it's like, okay, you'd have to, not everybody is like a PC person, and not everybody's has an emulator to run ROMs, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that, when you are getting into this territory, a lot of this actually is very important for games preservation, because there's tons of games that just otherwise get completely lost to time. Like there is no way to play them. There is no record of them, et cetera, except for the people who have, taken the time to create these ROMs basically that you can emulate on these systems. And so I think, something like this is incredibly important, even just from a game's preservation standpoint.
Yeah, and the nice thing with something like this is the preservation extends to accessories and peripherals. This has the same ports as a PS1, so all of that old hardware that maybe you have sitting in a closet or you've always wanted to track down and try, now you have an easy way of ensuring that doing that will work, instead of being like, man, I guess maybe I'll try an adapter on the PC. Maybe someone's done that work. Well, you don't have to go looking for that now. You just plug it in and it will just work, and that's nice. And
it'll just work.
I don't think this thing has a disk drive, at least not like built in. Maybe I think there was maybe sort of a suggestion here that it could extend and expand and include that at some point. You plug it in maybe to a USB drive or something like that, so you could play your real CDs. But either way, it's like, those CDs are not going to last forever. There are, a huge variable there is, what is the quality of the manufacturing on the discs, and a lot of early Blu-rays are already starting to fail. They're already getting disc rot, and like that, we're talking early Blu-rays, but a lot of those were pretty cheaply made. These days, a lot of the games you have probably are going to last through your life, but it's a roll of the dice for a lot of these things. And these early CD games, you just kind of can't rely on disc rot not being a factor. You got to store them as best you can, sure. But we need to find other ways to preserve this other than the go-to of physical games will save us. It's not always going to be the answer, and there should be.
Correct.
And ideally, there are multiple solutions here. We have multiple ways of preserving things, so we have redundancy, and this is one of those ways. So, FPGA is interesting. A lot of times, the other big name in the space, Analog, always presents it as this is perfect emulation. This is not even really emulation. It's just the hardware again. And that's not fully accurate. It is still, it's definitely still emulation. It's hardware emulation instead of software emulation. And it can have its own quirks for sure. A lot of that just comes down to what the cores that enable the FPGA to know what to do, how they are built, and they can have mistakes in them for sure. But as I'm someone who likes messing around with this stuff a lot and likes messing around with emulators, these things are often way beyond good enough. They go far beyond that. They are pretty close to just right. And so having these as an option and having them be in a vibrant scene where people want to continue building these cores and expanding them is a good thing, because it just means that this stuff will continue to improve as more people come and get these things, and especially as you make them $150, which is pretty close to an impulse purchase.
Yeah. I will say, this is my big question about it. Does it support PlayStation memory cards?
Yeah, I'm looking at the front of this thing, and it looks, is that, so I can't really tell. I'm trying to see. This is a render
I know.
that I'm looking at, and it looks like this is the port there, and the controller port, and then this is the memory card slot. So yes, I'm gonna say I think it does.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yes.
Dang! Oh my god, my brother has all of our PlayStation memory cards.
Well, I mean that might be the other thing here is like now you can probably using this thing. It's probably gonna have a built-in tool to get those memory saves off of there, so you can get them put in the cloud or whatever, and just save them forever. And just have them for the rest of your life. So your Final Fantasy VII save can be preserved long after we're all gone. Put it in a museum. There you go, Emma.
Yes.
That's good stuff. Steel Knight saying, are those batteries still alive? The battery, like memory card, would have used flash memory, so it wouldn't need a battery.
Yeah.
Battery would have been something like a cartridge on a Nintendo console, and gotta tell you, like for a while there, I'm like, these batteries never die, and then recently, like, the Link's Awakening cartridge that a kid gave me in third grade without me, or fifth grade without me knowing. He stole it from the teacher's assistant. The battery on that just died, and this is one of my favorite games of all time. I don't care what you say, Dan Reichert and the cast of Fire Escape apparently giving this game shit this week. I haven't listened, but I've been told that he gave it shit this week.
Link's Awakening?
Yeah, he's got bad taste. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just disgusting human is what I would say. Hey, yes, very excited about this thing. I'm going to get one. I have one of those analog 64, the analog 3D, the N64 ones coming. I'm very excited about that as well. And I'll just keep getting these things. I want them. They're cute and they're cool, and I want them all. All right, moving along. Skate 4 opens playtest on consoles. This is from Deanna Croce at DualShockers. Hope I said that name right. Skate 4, which is now called Skate with a period, is the upcoming free-to-play live service sequel to EA's skateboarding series. We don't know much of anything about the newest skate game beyond that, but one thing is certain, not everyone is going to love that new direction. Even for those who enjoy these kinds of games, it's hard to imagine how EA will transform a notoriously difficult simulationist skateboard series into a live service game. Either way, curious players can sign up for an early playtesting session with console playtest opening now. The signups have been open for some time, but it seems that like the developers are letting more players in as the game gets closer to release. As of January 9th, 2025, registrations are open for PC, Xbox Series S and X, and PlayStation 5. Be warned that this isn't an open beta, but a closed playtest. According to EA's sign-up website, sharing any videos, capture, screenshots, or streaming of anything in the game is strictly prohibited. That said, it seems like videos of playtests are already being shared of the game's YouTube channel, although here they take the form of exciting best-of compilations rather than unedited game footage. Yeah, this is like just me kind of checking in with this game. I am definitely keeping an eye on it. I'm interested to see what they're doing here. I like the direction that they were taking. I know like the focus being in most people's mind, oh, live service, that doesn't sound great. I think the way that they're actually approaching it is a hangout game. It's going to be a game where, hey, people just want to like hang out in this world and skate, and maybe let's like facilitate that by making it so they can hang out with their friends and express themselves. And then of course we can monetize how they express themselves. Like, yeah, and that part's always going to be, it's going to be icky in a lot of ways, probably. But the idea is, okay, so one person can be setting up a bunch of obstacles, and then all their friends can just take turns doing tricks on that stuff, just like they would in a real skate park. That's the pitch I heard early on. Sounds like that's still the direction they're headed. And I mean, to me, that sounds like a really good streamer game, which I think Skate probably should be in this era. I think that's how it bounced back, right? Skate 3 became very popular after PewDiePie like streamed it or something, or did a video on it. And I think that's like, now this is riding on that energy still. So this feels like the right fit to me. But okay, we're getting wider closed play tests. Do you think this thing's coming anytime soon?
Closed play test. I'm trying to think, because there were early access play tests for Baldur's Gate 3 as early as like 2020. Yeah, for whatever reason, that's just the one that like sprung to mind for me. And then that came out in 2023. So, I mean, look, this is not as big of a game from the outset, since it is going to be a live
And
service game.
And I think they've had some PC closed tests for a while now. So maybe that started a couple years even.
Early next year, maybe.
Yeah, I think that sounds right to me. I mean, there's a possibility it's later this year, but I think early next year sounds like the right window to me. They, when we first heard about this thing, they announced it. It had just started a team to develop it, not even started development. So it's like when we first heard about it, it was very, very, very early. So I think that's going to make this whole process feel a little bit longer. But we are probably getting there, and especially if they are presenting this thing as a series or a game that will live on and change over time as a live service game. I think they could probably launch it in a certain state with even one relatively big map and kind of just go from there.
I think they're really onto something here. I have to be honest. Like, the more I think about it, we need a good hangout game for the non-Roblox audience.
Yeah. I think there's going to be that graduating Roblox audience that will be looking for, hey, I need my new obbies. And it's like, well, here, you can make some obbies in here instead. Have fun, kids. All right, let's keep moving. Former Naughty Dog dev explains why studios want mods banned. This is from Alex Coe at DualShockers. Over on Twitter, Del Walker, who previously worked on Naughty Dog as a senior character artist, and he's also worked at Respawn and Rocksteady, was also on the couch at Giant Bomb over the summer, commented on why most studios despise mods and ban them in games. Here's the explanation by Walker. One is exploits. Some mods can make an enemy easier to see. Imagine all your foes are freaking glowing, or make you harder to see. You could destroy the game balance easily with visual mods. Two, it's server strain. Mods that aren't optimized can sometimes do some weird stuff that can cause a strain to the server, even if the mod is client side only. Odd stuff can sometimes happen when the server is double checking things. He lists number 3 here as a problem as gooners, as we've seen with nude Chun-Li appearing in a Street Fighter tournament by accident. Not safe for work mods can damage a developer's reputation or image if it's floating around the net. Moderation, brand, legal, skin marketplace. This is the one that most people just assume is the reason they do this. The most important reason is that the skin sales drop if you have free mods as an option. Studios ain't about to let you mess with their income. For me, Emma, when I see this sort of thing, or I see an online multiplayer game, I just assume like mods aren't going to work in an online multiplayer game. And of course, it's this whole conversation was inspired by Marvel Rivals. Having the ability for people to have custom skins and then prohibiting that practice, stopping that from happening. And people are like, hey, what's going on here? And Del Walker stepped in to explain. And it is all those things. But the reality is they want to sell you skins. That's their business model. They give you every character for free. It is a free to play game. They plan to make money by selling skins. I get it. I just assume. And also the server thing where it's like other people aren't going to be able to see this for the most part because they're not going to transmit whatever skin I put in here to other people. I don't think it would work that way. So again, when it's an online multiplayer game, I just assume this stuff wouldn't work. So this doesn't bother me too much. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, for an online multiplayer game, I get it. For a single player game, what does it matter? Yeah, and I can't think of too many examples where mods don't work on a single player game. So I think this is probably just exclusive to multiplayer games. And if a single player game tried to do this, they would get raked over the coals. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I think that, again, it's one of those things where they are, like you said, it's infringing on the skins market. And that's really what it boils down to. So many of these free to play games, like that's what they operate off of is, hey, you're going to spend money to get a different outfit for this character. Yep. And Marvel Rivals, I think the skins, they range from $10 to $20 for a skin. Just like that's how these things go these days. I think people who've bought a lot of skins in Call of Duty and Fortnite will be like, yeah, Jeff, that's how much they cost. I'm still I get a little bit of sticker shock when I see that still. So for me, it's like, man, you've seen these things are $20? And people are like, yeah, that's right. I mean, much it costs. And that's right. And that's why you have the market with modders to basically make those skins for you. It's the same thing as, it's like not that different from, I don't know, like Napster and LimeWire and all the stuff we would use back in the day to pirate stuff. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So I think they want to gate that away and just sell us the stuff that they make.
All right. Yeah, last story here. Awesome Games Done Quick raises over $2.5 million in the name of cancer research. This is from Marcus Persson at Game Reactor. The annual charity event Awesome Games Done Quick, where skilled gamers perform various speedruns to raise money for charitable causes, managed to collect a total of $2.5 million this year. AGDQ has been running for a week and featured events like Elden Ring Bingo and a full playthrough of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The funds raised this year will be donated to the Prevent Cancer Foundation, an organization dedicated to cancer research and prevention. For those who missed the live broadcast, they are still available to watch through VOD links on their website. And there are several very good ones, including a Crazy Taxi run with a live band that was phenomenal. A great Tears of the Kingdom run that I was there for. That was awesome to watch live. So yeah, it was a really good Awesome Games Done Quick, as always. I think I'll venture to say, like, boy, it just feels like it's getting bigger and more important and better every time they do it.
I love speedrunning. I love the speedrunning community. I think that they are some of the nicest people in gaming. It is the least gatekeepery group of people I have ever encountered. I've had the pleasure of, I did a many years ago, I guess 4 years ago now, when I was still working at Venn, RIP, we did a campaign for Geico where I learned to speedrun the original Sonic the Hedgehog from Spike Vegeta, who's super involved in Games Done Quick. He's really like a Kingdom Hearts 2 speedrunner is his main game, but he also like teaches speedrunning. But yeah, I mean, it's such a feel good event. Everybody is so supportive. It's for charity. It's just awesome. I loved that randomizer Ocarina of Time run. That was so funny. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's such a supportive environment. And speedrunning is just really cool. Like it's a really cool way to game. And it's very funny because like, I used to be like such a completionist. I've definitely toned back on that, mostly because I need to finish games so I can play other games. But I remember people saying, "Oh, like actually, Emma, I think you'd really like speedrunning." And I'm like, I feel like I'm the opposite of speedrunner. I feel like I'm the slowest person ever. But actually, if you are that kind of person that pays attention to detail, it's just learning to think about the game in a different way and to play it a different way. And yeah, it's so fun. And yeah, I love Games Done Quick. I think it's an incredible event. And I'm just so happy to see them continue to grow. And I wish I'd, been in that mosh pit for the
Me too.
Crazy Taxi run. Not really. I'm too old for mosh pits, but my younger self wishes I'd been there.
I was there. I saw a lot of the speedrunners, and this is not any shade to the speedrunners. You'd be fine. You'd be fine. They're all a bunch of gentle souls. You'd be just fine.
It's true. It's very true.
I think my take on being there and of course watching it is that there is so much sort of chest pounding weirdness from idiots on the internet who want to say this is the way to experience games. This is the way games should be. This is when developers make games, they should make games for the real gamers. Me, a man who's a manly man who likes naked chicks, and that's it. And then you go to Awesome Games Done Quick, and you see the people who are actually good at games, and they are every stripe of human being you've ever seen, and they all love each other and support each other, and and they care about like them getting good at the game as well. They're competitive, but they can't help but share all of their tech because they want other people to speedrun with them. They want to get more people involved. It is beautiful. It's the way things ought to be. They're like everywhere you go, there is a trans person that looks happy to be surrounded by people who want them there the way it ought to be. It is better than the other stuff that people are offering up as what gaming should be. It just is. 100%. It's just better. So very inspired to be there. Very inspired by all the work that people do to keep it going and keep it growing. The people behind the scenes there, that was another fun thing to do, was just sort of watch people do the work. And they do the work. It was awesome. So just absolute kudos to them for making this happen as always. All right, one last little thing here. Someone sent in this story. Thanks, chat. Virtual artist Hatsune. You know what? I'm going to say it the way I always do.
Hatsune Miku.
Yeah, I'll say it in the way I do as a uninformed white guy. Hatsune Miku beams into Fortnite Festival for season 7. Yeah, so apparently they're going to put Hatsune Miku in the game, and yeah, there she is. I'm looking at images. Yeah, very fun.
Didn't she perform at Coachella last year?
Yeah,
I feel like there was a Hatsune Miku
she did
thing.
something like that. Yes, absolutely. So maybe she'll probably have a concert in Fortnite as well. You know, I'm not going to read all this, but yeah, I think she's probably going to have a concert in there because that's usually what they do when they have musical artists, even real ones, let alone virtual ones, who would make a lot of sense to be in there. So yeah, very cool. Does Sega own Hatsune Miku, or is that they just have a license with Hatsune Miku?
I think they just have a license.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, that sounds right. I'm very uninformed about this personally, so yes, that sounds more likely to me. I know she's a vocoder. I don't know how to say
Vocaloid.
that. Vocaloid. There we go. Vocaloid, which is is a software that people can use to make stuff. But beyond that, I don't know much at all. All right, there we go. That's it for the headlines. Let's get over to the poll question from last week. Here we go. Let me refresh this one last time. And while it's refreshing, there we go. Okay. Are you more likely to play Assassin's Creed Shadows with its new March release date? 74% said no, they're not more likely, and 26% said yes. I mean, that's any number would have been an improvement there, right? This is, are you more likely to play Assassin's Creed Shadows now than you were before? So a quarter of respondents saying, yeah, now that it's not right next to Monster Hunter, I'm a little bit more likely to play it. That's got to be something that Ubisoft was hoping to see. Maybe they're hoping for a bigger number than that. I don't know. But still, like, any movement there is an improvement. So I think, me personally, I'm like, God, if I really get into Monster Hunter, which is the plan, I probably will still be very into Monster Hunter by the time this comes out. But we will.
I'm also planning to get really into Monster Hunter. So
yes, and I kind of can't wait for that. And that's going to be mid-February, and Assassin's Creed now is mid-March. It's March 20th. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see. All right, a new poll question we'll get to here in a second. Before we do that, Emma Fyffe, why don't you tell people what you have going on, where they can find you on the internet, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so, well, right now, I'm in Arizona, staying safe from the wildfires. I'm Emma Fyffe on Blue Sky and Instagram. We'll see how I feel about Instagram going forward. Meta, why? Anyway, I've seen a lot of memes going around that David Fincher was too nice to Zuckerberg. He
was too nice to that fucking
But anyway, yeah, he sucks. I'm hoping that when I do get back to LA to get some stuff going on my Twitch channel, I might do, back in the day, I used to do this thing where I would have chat play Hades. So chat would make all of my decisions for me. And you would create very strange builds for me to play with. So maybe we'll do some chat plays Hades 2 on my Twitch channel or something. And try to raise some money for people who are affected by the fires in LA. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Thank you, everybody, for checking in and your continued support.
That reminds me, I wanted to make a t-shirt of Mike Minotti as the Pog Slammer, and he would never approve of that unless I said I was going to give all the proceeds to people in LA trying to get through this fire, which is what I will do. So if anyone wants to, because all the proceeds will go towards, if anyone wants to donate some art for this, let me know, get in contact with me. Let's make it happen. It'll just be a t-shirt. I looked at actually making Pog Slammers, and I couldn't find an easy way to do that. So let's just make a t-shirt. And I think that the service that we use had a thing where it's like we could just flip this on. So when people buy a shirt, the money just goes right to supporting foundations in Los Angeles. So we'll just do that. And so yeah, everyone let me know. Let's get something done. Okay, let's see here. A new poll question. Here it is. Is Switch 2 going to get revealed this week? Do you finally believe? I don't blame you if you don't. I don't blame you if you want. Again, like I said, I was even in the mood of it'll happen when it happens. And now I've chosen to believe, and I'm just setting myself up for disappointment. So we'll see. But if it's real, by Thursday, we'll know. Okay, that poll question will get answered tomorrow, or no, excuse me, on Wednesday on Game Mess Mornings here on Giant Bomb. Speaking of Giant Bomb, tomorrow we will be doing the Giant Bomb cast. Later this week, we will have more Blight Club. Dan did start his new game, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. It's been pretty fun so far. If you missed the first episode, it was a great reveal with Dan's costume, and Alex Navarro hung out with us. It was excellent time. Very good. Check that out. Then Voicemail Dump Truck should be back. I think they're recording more Jeffs. We'll have a UPF. We might have even a BCR this week, as well as a Power Bomb cast. Now, listen, a lot of stuff's on the table. We'll let you know. We'll do our best to get to all of it. In the meantime, though, Emma Fyffe, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yep, and we'll try to make it happen again next Monday. Hopefully,
Yes.
hopefully you're able to get back home. Hopefully you're able to stay safe. Really, we're all just kind of hoping that's the case, is that you and yours are able to stay safe. So we're glad that that's happened so far, Emma. All right. Thank you all for watching and listening. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye. All right. We are off of